You were gaslit into believing that after you stop your psych meds, your withdrawal symptoms will last only a short time and then poof, go away.
Oh,
We
poof,
are,
be gone.
yeah, I know, poof, be gone. We are your whistleblowing shrinks, Dr. Teralyn and therapist Jenn. This is the Gaslit Truth Podcast. Before we set this whole conversation on fire, make sure you like, subscribe, ring that bell. I got a shout out to Michelle Pate for being our 1,000 subscriber over on YouTube. We appreciate you, Michelle, and we appreciate everybody else that also subscribes and rings those bells. Oh yeah, it's your turn now, Jen. We're squirrely today, you guys.
We're so squirrel. All I can think about is Zalikadoo, a midgikaboo, a bibbity boppity boo, because that's how like the topic we're going to talk about today is presented by prescribers and even like kind of like the global milieu of it's okay, go off a drug, and here's what's going to happen. It's going to be short, sweet, it's going to be done. Just as a reminder, guys, Dr. Terry and I, we are deprescribers. And if you work with us, we're going to tell you that is not how psychiatric drug withdrawal actually works. There is no bibbity bobbity boo, and we will work you through what withdrawal and protracted.
There's no bibbity boppity boo, but we will work you through. Yay. Okay. Anyway, we're on fire today.
If we had a production team, they'd be like, that's gold. That's gold, Jen. Keep going.
Either that or they would be pushing the mute button right now.
I don't know. Shut up, this girl. She's full of it today. But yes, we're deprescribers, guys. So if you want to start getting off your meds and you want to do it safely and you want to learn how to get through protracted withdrawal, which interestingly enough, we're going to talk about today, which goes back to these damn 4 pillars of life that people need to learn to focus on, right? We can help you. So shoot us an email at thegaslitruthpodcast@gmail.com. Okay, let's get started. We're talking about protracted withdrawal today. And I'm gonna be on fire, I think.
She was on fire before we started. So yes, Jenn is on one. She's on one today. Let's start with the definition, Jenn.
All right. So let's talk about what protracted withdrawal is. This is my opinion. Before I give the definition, but I think that it's one of the least openly discussed and most freaking misunderstood experiences within the psychiatric drug community. Whether it's starting drugs, understanding drugs, withdrawing from drugs, this is the thing that does not get discussed, okay? We talk about acute withdrawal, which is going to start within days or maybe even a week or so, right, of stopping a psychiatric medication. So for myself, right, it's Jen, you're going off of Lexapro, you're going to stop this drug. It's got a half-life of 30 hours in the body. So guess what? Within probably 2 or 3 days.
Gone. You should be better.
Yeah. Within 2 or 3 days, the body is going to go through the body. The drug is gone. You're going to have some withdrawal and then it'll subside. And that's bullshit. That's not how it works, people. What is accurate is protracted withdrawal, or they'll call it PAWS. Okay. Post-acute withdrawal syndrome. You'll hear it called that too. And that's when symptoms actually persist for months or years for people after reducing or stopping a psychiatric medication.
I got to add one little key in there in case you weren't going to. It doesn't mean that they have to persist consistently, and they can also pop up later they can be you stop and then there's nothing and then they pop up later.
Yes.
So I think that's the misunderstood part about it too.
And that's for me, and I'll talk about this a little bit today because I've been, 2 years and 6 months now or so, and trying to get off of Lexapro here after 25 years here total of use. Okay. I experience a lot of protracted withdrawal that happens as I dose down. I have other people very near and dear to me in my heart that have also gone off that same medication and didn't experience any of that while they were going off of it. But about 3 months after the last dose down, after hyperbolic tapering, boom, protracted withdrawal hit. So you're right, Terry, right? So we're talking about protracted withdrawal happening during a dose reduction or when you're done. And it's months later, and all of a sudden, your world falls apart. So symptoms.
So I'm going to say some people are going to argue about how we're using the protracted withdrawal terminology during a taper. The reason we do that is because, it can just be withdrawal, but when it's delayed, it's like there's nothing going on. And then 3-4 weeks later, when you're in the hold pattern, something happens. Yes. That's kind of how we're using this terminology now. And so Jenn and I were talking about that this community has a problem with terminology. Yeah. So I think that's one of the biggest issues.
Can we stop? Can we stop? Stop with the
splitting hairs, semantics, all this kind of stuff. But there isn't, with most things in the prescribing world, there isn't agreed upon language. Like there isn't
Yes.
agreed upon terminology, and it continues to evolve. So the language and the definitions continue to evolve as more people are experiencing this, and that happens because more people are being prescribed. So there's going to be more experiences on the other side of this. So that was just kind of like my little disclaimer of things for
No,
today. Because people get
you're
so
good.
pissed. They
Me
get so
too.
mad. That's
I
not right.
know.
That's not right. I'm like,
I
listen, I'm not trying to
know.
be a right fighter. I'm really not. I'm just trying to bring some information forward.
It's true. And I had
Mhm.
somebody arguing with me like a year ago on TikTok about this. And they're like,
Mhm.
no, what you're describing is pause. What you're not describing is acute withdrawal. And
Right.
and we're going back and forth on all of this. And I'm just like, I stop like, okay, enough with the semantics. Here's the deal. Withdrawal can happen acutely, which is when the drug is out of the body and shit
Mhm.
hits the fan after the half-life and the drug is gone. Then you can be fine. Or
Yep.
that doesn't even happen for some people. Some people do not have acute withdrawal. They can go off a
Right.
drug and they're perfectly fine. And 6 months down the road, shit hits the
Yes.
fan. Okay. So that's how I'm going to describe it. Okay. There's windows and waves. We're going to talk about this. This is such a big piece of protracted withdrawal. Okay.
Mhm.
And you need to know to the window, to the
To the
wall.
wall.
Okay. All right. This is how it's going to go. We're going to
Sweat
talk
did
about
drip
that.
down my balls. But anyway.
Listen, we've talked about balls on this show. This is how it goes. But it comes in windows and waves, right? The waves are when you feel better, and the windows is like it's getting worse again. It's like, what the hell is this? All right. So let's talk just a little bit about how the brain
I
is
think you got that backward.
Window to the wall?
Isn't a wind
You're right.
I think it's
I
a
said
win
it
because
backward.
I do it as like a window of opportunity. So like a
Oh,
window when you feel
I
good, and a wave like you're being sucked under the tide.
I feel a wave as you're feeling better, and a window closes and you're
Oh my
worse
God,
again.
we might have
Semantics.
to
Let's fight it out.
let's
This
fight
bitch is
it out.
wrong. Dr. Teralyn, she's got to go. Okay.
I
All
gotta
right.
Google search this
Don't
stuff.
you
All
dare
right.
Google or chat this right now. All right. So while she does that, here I am going to be talking about what's actually happening in the brain. So what this is about, guys, is neuroadaptation. Okay. And what is happening is the brain is adjusting to the presence or the absence of a drug, right? This is what's happening. So psych meds don't just balance chemicals. Okay. They force the brain to compensate. So an SSRI, for example, it's going to increase serotonin signaling, and the brain's going to down regulate those receptors that are happening. Benzos are going to enhance GABA. And then the brain slowly reduces its ability to have these natural, like calming mechanisms that it creates, right? So it's about neuroadaptation. All right. And when the drug is removed, the brain is left functioning and under functioning and trying to figure out how to function again. And it's a state of neurochemical instability, essentially. So this is what's happening, right? Okay. So
I found it.
what is it? Okay. What does it say? The
I was
listeners
right.
are
I was right.
listeners are
Yeah,
dying to
yeah.
hear.
But see, here's the deal. Like windows and waves was used in benzodiazepine withdrawal communities and language. It hasn't been used in SSRI community language. It's getting there. I mean, it's coming
I'm
into
creating
this
my
world.
own then.
No.
Huh? Is this what I'm doing?
No.
Is just trying to put my own definition on it?
Windows and waves refer to the nonlinear alternating phases of recovery, particularly in the benzo withdrawal. Windows are periods of reduced symptoms and improved functionality, and waves are sudden, temporary, or prolonged returns of intense, severe withdrawal symptoms.
Ooh, that's interesting.
Yeah, but see, that's why I looked at it like a window. This is how I describe it. It's a window of opportunity, or it's a wave that you're being sucked into the tide. So that's usually how I describe it. So
all right. Well, if you guys work with Terry and I, you're going to get different definitions of windows and waves. Okay. It's just like, all right, here we go. See, we can agree to disagree. We can have an intellectual conversation without being assholes to each other. Isn't this amazing?
To me, always it's about however you want to describe your lived experience. Seriously, I'm not going to autocorrect or grammar correct or any correct of whatever of someone who's describing their lived experience, however they want to describe it. I'm not going to be like, that's wrong. That's wrong. So
okay,
anyway,
well,
here we are.
Here we are. So in protracted withdrawal, right? The state of neurochemical instability. All right. What does this lead to? It leads to receptors downregulating. All right. Here's what's happening, guys. Very slow recovery. The nervous system becomes hypersensitive. during this state. What? Okay. Super hypersensitive. In fact, that like your HPA axis gets all fucking dysregulated. Your stress response is dysregulated. Your glutamate, your GABA becomes imbalanced. Kindling. Let's talk about kindling for a hot second, if no one knows what that is, which essentially is like increased sensitivity that's occurring each time you have a withdrawal attempt, and can be a kind of a dangerous space for some people because sometimes we reinstate the drug, then we go
Yeah.
down on the drug.
So let me explain
Okay.
something. Actually, so Dr. Clayton just reached out to me from the physical therapy person. I forgot what his
Durr,
company is.
Clayton Durr,
Doctor. Yeah.
the doctor.
Anyway, he had someone who was tapering or just got off Lexapro for a few months and was experiencing increased pain that they couldn't figure out where it was coming from. And so his question was, could that be a thing? Is that part of the protracted Lexapro withdrawal? And I said, thank you for asking, number one. Like, thank you for thinking. I'm like, Jen, we have influenced other care providers with our information. Yes. And so when you talk about increased sensitivity, I want to bring that up. Increased sensitivity to pain, right?
Yes.
So emotional pain and actual physical pain. And I think that's when people want to reinstate or go back up because they have such a heightened experience with pain, and it's so uncomfortable. And,
Yes.
Jen was talking about the nervous system dysregulation, but it's also the pain receptors, and all of these things impact your ability to feel pain emotionally and physically. And so when you come off of that, you could be having a lot more bodily, physical pain combined with your emotional pain too as a
Yeah.
result. So, yeah.
Mhm.
So I think people that, and I actually said to him, I said, so instead of playing a game of whack-a-mole, like let's find out where that pain is coming from, because you're going to be chasing resolution to that pain when we just look at it like this is actually part of the neuroadaptation process
Right.
of the withdrawal. So, which feels hopeless when I say it
Mhm.
like that.
Mhm.
But we'll get into the 4 pillars of the things that we can do to help ourselves
Mhm.
as we go along in this discussion. So anyway,
And
yeah.
for those of you who have some knowledge on those neurotransmitter pathways, right? Pain is
Mm,
going to be implicated in that serotonin pathway, right?
yeah.
Right? That's where pain's gonna be, right? That's mood, sleep, appetite, hunger, pain. This is all our serotonin pathway. And
Mhm,
this is what is having to figure out how to readapt itself
mhm.
when you're going off of a drug. And you were talking about an SSRI, which
SSRI
yeah.
particularly, yeah.
Yes,
Mhm.
and that's what's gonna be happening when you're in protracted withdrawal is that neuroadaptation. So the brain is just continuously trying to figure out what to do. So
Yeah.
if you have issues with sleep, mood, pain, appetite, like hunger changes, like, okay, well, yeah, that's kind of all that pathway. And
It
that
is all
pathway's
that
trying to figure out
pathway.
what to do, right? So
Yeah.
it makes sense if you look at it from just a basic, like, how I would talk to a 5th grader level.
Yes.
Like, we don't need to overcomplicate it. So
Right.
so let's talk about symptoms that happen during protracted withdrawal if we can, just a little bit. Guys, this is not an all-encompassing list, at
Oh,
all.
no.
Terry and
No.
we have, like, 50 minutes to take an overarching viewpoint on a topic
We're
that
gonna
we
miss some shit, you
we're gonna miss
guys. We're gonna
lots of
miss
shit,
some.
okay? But if we look at, like, protracted withdrawal, and this is what we were talking about off air, it really can mimic psychiatric illness,
Mhm.
big time. And so hence why, like, whether you experience protracted withdrawal when you're going down on the drug and you get feedback from your world around you that says, well, guess what? Your symptoms have come back. You probably shouldn't be going down on that drug. You need it. Or you go
Mhm.
off the drug and you're fine, and 4 months later, all of a sudden, you
You're
start
not
to
fine.
have yeah, anxiety, depression, intrusive thoughts, panic
Can't sleep.
attacks, emotional blunting, your sleep is shit, like, you have no appetite, and it's like,
Mhm.
"Oh, shit, what's going on with me?" Um, we never here's the thing, we don't tie it back to, "That actually could be protracted withdrawal from when you went off that drug 4 months ago."
Yeah, well, so I know everybody hates it when I compare this to the addiction community, but the same phenomenon happens in the addiction community. They usually look at it about 6 months later. So
Mhm.
6 months later is when a lot of relapse happens, right? And I think that's because of the same neuroadaptation stuff that those types of chemicals due to the brain, right? So it's the same thing. So you'll see a lot of relapse between 4 and 6 months
Yes.
later. And you see the same thing in our community. A lot of I'm going to say relapse because a lot of people will go back on, right? And
Oh,
so but they call it a relapse of symptoms. I'm going to call it a relapse of like let's get prescribed again,
right.
to mitigate these symptoms that I have. Mhm.
And the symptoms we have, guys, can be so those were psychological. Let's say
Yeah.
6 months you go off a drug and you start to have neurological issues, brain zaps, like pressure in your head, sensory issues like that for me, right? The wind is too windy. Like I couldn't sit at my kids' baseball games 2 summers ago. The wind
Mhm.
was too windy, and that's
It
all the
wasn't
way to
even
describe
windy.
it.
It was
It's
just
not I know.
breezy.
It wasn't, guys, right? Like, it's not, but that's what was happening to me, right? Let's say you get tremors, okay? You go to your doctor and you're starting to have neurological issues like zaps or tremors, and they're gonna say to you, "Okay, so you went off a drug 4 months ago." No,
Right. It's
no
out of your
way.
body.
That's out of
It's
your body,
mhm,
okay. Here's the next
mhm,
thing people have issues with, physical issues, okay? Pain, GI issues,
yeah.
heart issues, metabolic issues, okay? All these physical things that start to happen. And you're like, huh, it's got to be something else that's going on, right? There's a metabolic issue happening with this patient, okay? Or
Mhm,
we're going to go have you see a GI specialist because all of a sudden this can all be from protracted withdrawal, guys.
mhm.
And we've got to be the ones that have awareness of this because, again, this is one of the most misunderstood things in the medical community. They're
Well,
going to
and I
say, no, not possible.
well, and I think it's important that you also have, knowledge of percentage, okay? And I know these percentages are still loose, like, what are the odds of somebody, having protracted withdrawal, right?
Mm,
They're pretty good,
they're
actually.
very high.
The odds are pretty
They're very high.
high.
Mhm.
And they also talk about duration. There was a study, Gardner in 2020.
I read that
Yeah,
one.
yeah,
Read that one
yeah.
yesterday.
Yeah, duration ranged 5 to 166 months. The median was 26 months, so 2 years, which is interesting because I think I experienced that, and didn't know what it was, and we'll talk about that in a minute. The average duration is 37 months, so 3 years. 3
And that
years.
actually on that, Terry, I don't have it up, but it does say the length of time for the psychiatric drugs were being taken, right? I think it lists it out there in
Probably,
the
but I don't have that. I don't
yeah,
have
it was
that.
like people were on the drugs from an average of 2 years up to 25 years.
Yeah, well,
And
this is where they're talking about, like, duration matters when it comes time, like, how the dose that you were on and how long you were
how
on it
long
matters a
you took
lot.
it. Mhm.
Yes, it does matter a lot. But here's the thing, like, 81% of people had symptoms that were large: anxiety, depression, agitation, and suicidality. 81% of the people experienced that in their protracted withdrawal. So
Frick.
those are big symptoms, and they're also scary symptoms, right? So like if you go back to your doctor and you're like, I have suicidal thoughts,
Mm-mm.
the
Nope.
antidote is more psych
Yes,
meds for you.
yes.
Like,
I
that's
mean,
the
that's
antidote because they're scared, right?
yeah,
Because they're scared. And I think these are important things. Like 40% of people had it lasting more than 2 years. That's a lot. That's a huge when you think about 40%, that's a actual huge number of people. When we're talking about now, what is it? Like 1 in 4 people now
mhm.
are on
1
something?
in 4, 1 in 5. Yep.
When
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah.
So and I'm sure that that's getting smaller too. So,
Yeah.
if you think that you can outrun that or it doesn't happen to you, the odds are,
Mhm.
it might happen on a spectrum, right? So, like, it's a spectrum.
And those are risk factors. So let's jump into risk
Mhm.
factors is exactly what you're talking about. Risk factors are going to include how long you've been on the medication, okay?
Yep.
The doses, and if your
Mhm.
dosing was high. But I also want to challenge this one too for people because I'm constantly hearing I'm on the lowest
I'm on a
possible
baby
dose.
dose. I'm on
It's
a
the
baby
baby
dose.
dose. I'm like, oh my God, can't I hear the baby dose thing again?
It's
Okay.
just a
And then
dose.
let me inform you, let me offer you some informed consent on what baby dose actually means and how that actually doesn't matter. So I'm
Right.
going to be really like hesitant when I say high dose versus low dose in terms of risk factor, because I think there's a
Yeah.
lot of variance in that. Okay. Rapidly tapering or abruptly stopping. Okay,
Yeah.
that's going to give you a risk factor. Polypharmacy as well. If you have had
Yes.
multiple meds, you've been on and off multiple meds.
Or
I
up
mean,
and down a lot. Like, I think about
uh-huh.
Jen's story was didn't you say that when summer would come, you would
Yes,
reduce down to 10, then winter would come, you go
would
back
go
up to
back up. And
20,
that was
and
the
this
advice
went
I was
on
given.
for years. Yes, this for
15 years
years.
probably. And then
Yes.
some years in the summer, I would just go off because it would
Yeah.
be great. And it was, yeah, Jen, you've got seasonal affective disorder. We know this. It was never actually
Go back on in the fall.
labeled that, but yeah, you have
Right, you were in
seasonal
protracted
issues
withdrawal every time.
over and over and over and over. And it never
Wow.
stopped. Yeah, right? Like this never stopped for my body, guys, right? So
No.
previous withdrawal attempts, which is where this kindling effect can come in. Oh my God, I
Mhm.
probably did this 1,000 times over. I mean,
Right.
okay, hundreds of times on and off, dose up, dose down. I got to a point for years where I just dosed myself, and my prescriber would say, well, you know what to do. You know
Yeah.
when you need to go up, you know when you need to go down. I'm like,
God,
fuck
that's
yeah, I do.
ridiculous. Yeah.
And I didn't know, right? So, like, for what I experience now, am I actually experiencing withdrawal from doing this slow, hyperbolic, and now micro taper I've been doing for 2 years? Or is it not? Or am I actually experiencing withdrawal symptoms from, I don't know, prior to me starting this process where I'd go up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down? The world will never know.
And you'll never know, but what an interesting question.
It
I
is,
mean,
right? Right?
mhm.
Which is why when people say, "Oh, you don't have PSSD," you never actually stopped a drug fully for long enough to have
Stopped it a lot.
post-sexual SSRI dysfunction. Are you kidding me? I would
Right.
stop it, start it, go up, down, up, down, up, down. Yes, actually, I do. And so
Mhm.
this is about also if you have like the other risk factor, I think, is people who just have sensitivities within their nervous systems or predispositions
Mhm.
within that, other medical complications that they've got going on in like these are all predispositions, I would say, or risk factors, I would say, to protracted withdrawal. I know there's more. Short list, guys.
Yes.
I'm sure
I
there's
think
more.
I think the slippery slope is that when we have a definitive stop, right? Like, it can
Oh,
only happen after you completely stop, and then like Jen said, she has stopped and started over and over and again, and
mm,
I would imagine that she's been in a period of withdrawal, acute withdrawal, protracted withdrawal for
I
fucking
don't know.
15 years.
Probably.
Yeah.
Probably. Yeah.
Yes, which is
Yeah.
crazy when you think about it. So, I mean, so again, when we have such boxed in definitions, it can only be that we get
Yes.
into trouble because
It's
then
not
we
linear.
eliminate right, we eliminate lived experiences, and that's a big problem in this community, period.
I was saying this to a client the other day. I said, protracted withdrawal is not linear at all. And if you've ever
Mm-mm.
seen Back to the Future, right? In one of the episodes of Back to the Future, they think they're going in the future to a certain year. But instead, all of a sudden an alternate 1985 got made and they went to
Oh,
the alternate
well,
1985
that's
and not
right.
the real 1985, right? And I'm explaining to this and I'm like, this is exactly how this process for many people works. Okay.
Yeah.
You
Yes.
think that you're moving and you're going to the next space. But in
Mhm.
reality, I mean, you think you know what's causing certain things. And I'm not saying this to be defeatist, but I'm saying it to kind of be a realist within the process and that we can't check all the boxes and go, yep, we're good. We can move on to the next phase. You might find yourself back in a 1985 you never experienced before. And you
Well,
got to
okay.
figure out what to do there.
But I think about it too, because remember I had said that I'm pretty sure that I experienced protracted withdrawal when I was having all the panic attacks that I had
Right.
before I left my other job. But looking back on that, the timing feels right that that could have been what it was years later. But to me, now that I'm thinking through it, I think it was also the nervous system dysregulation still because I was on something for 6 years, still trying to rebalance itself, then faced with a huge stressor.
Stress. Yep.
huge stressor, and then it kicked it right back into something different because I'm not an anxious
Yeah.
person. I don't experience anxiety like that, like some people do. I'm more on the low end depressed type thing. So when I
Mhm.
experience anxiety, it's so foreign to me. Like, where did this come from? I think it came from that. Now in this is all retrospective for me. But
Right.
when you're faced with a giant stressor, right? And you are, a year out or months out, like that could be enough to precipitate this whole cascade storm back in your body of imbalance, right? Like,
Yes.
because you're still trying to reach that new homeostasis.
Yes.
So, yeah, and stressors happen in life because life's, so
It
yeah,
it does, and I think that's a really good thing that you said when we were talking about risk factors, and when
stress.
it's stress is a huge risk factor, and this is something that when we work with people, we talk a lot about is how because I talk with people about triggers within protracted withdrawal,
Mhm,
because I think that there are things we can recognize that happen that don't make things better, or
mhm,
there are signs and symptoms that start sooner that
mhm.
tell us the storm is coming. But
Yeah,
we have to pay attention to them, right? Like,
mhm.
you've gotta
Well,
pay attention to them.
yeah, let me offer a little definition of stress because it can be so many things and nothing at all because we use that word stress like as this huge umbrella thing. So, if we can bring it down to a small definition, nutritional stress, emotional stress, which is often a perception of things going on. So, like how we're looking at our world, and then inflammatory or disease state stress.
Yep.
So, any of those things can happen to a human, right?
Mhm.
Sorry, you can see Linus moving
Nice.
around in the lumbering around in the back. He moved like 2 feet. Like he got up and moved 2 feet.
He
Anyway,
did it.
yeah. So that's how I define stress to kind of keep it a little more definitive. Like, what does stress mean? And emotional stress is really the one that gets people a lot, well, nutritional and emotional, because
Mhm.
emotional stress, like it really is based on perception of the world and yourself in it.
Yep.
So if your perception of the world is that negative and things like that, and you're taking that on, that's going to be a risk factor
It's a
for
risk
you.
factor. You
So
bet.
mhm,
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely. Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, so these are just some of the risk factors I would say. Listen, can you, like, hear there's my stutter. I've developed a stutter, people.
Oh,
I
that's a return of symptoms, Jen.
Damn it. Oh my god, there's
You
neurological impairment happening. It's true. It's true. It's something that's new over the last 4 to 5 months for me, that my kids like to remind me of almost every day, and I've had to gently tell them to not fucking, like, make fun of your mother, because
yes.
this is not cool, guys.
Mhm.
But yeah, I mean, never had that in my entire life, but here
No.
we go. Here we go.
Jen's good with words.
I It sucks because that's
I
the
know.
thing I feel like I'm very good with, and yeah, it's
Yep.
kind of taking that away.
Yes.
All right, so we digress from that for just a little bit. So Terry, how should we jump into how we manage this a little bit and like what matters within managing protracted withdrawal? Because I
Sure,
think
I'd like to
that's
I'd also like to kinda just ask the people because 'cause we've got some people that are watching us right now. Go ahead and drop it in the comments, like, have you experienced protracted withdrawal, and maybe what were
Mhm.
some of those symptoms for you? You don't have to disclose that on a YouTube channel, but if you feel like you want to share with other people, go ahead and do
Yeah,
that because I think that conversation matters too because I think the more we can develop almost a list of, like, things that happen to people,
yeah,
I mean, we have a huge list when we help people deprescribe, a huge list of things. It's like 80 some, almost close to 100 symptoms that you could experience. People get that list and they're like, "Are you kidding me? All of this can be from that?" I'm like,
yeah.
yes,
Yes.
yes. So same thing with a protracted withdrawal list, right? And so
Mhm.
also when we think about okay, so let's just before we do that, let's think about this whole stupid idea of
Yeah,
the
you need to go
return of
there.
symptoms.
You
Yes.
need to go there for a minute. Yep.
Yeah, return
Yeah.
of symptoms. Okay. So it's like a return of symptoms. Okay. So Jen, what was your originating symptom of getting on Lexapro?
Yeah, so I was sad, down, and depressed. I was a high school kid who had her heart broken by her boyfriend and wasn't doing very well with that. So I was sad, and I
Jen
was
was sad.
probably
She was heartbroken.
I was going through some
Mhm.
grief.
Yeah,
Mhm.
she was heartbroken.
Yeah.
And, I on the other hand, was prescribed to prevent postpartum depression. So I wasn't even depressed. So the idea of a return of symptoms for me is ludicrous because because I didn't have symptoms to start, right? So but I had a lot of symptoms later,
Yeah.
right? And then when I had the anxiety and they wanted to put me back on an SNRI, not back on, but an SNRI, because well, oh, you've been on meds before. Like, that doesn't make sense. It doesn't line up. So when you think about return of symptoms, what I need you guys to do is go back into your history and remember the originating time, like what was going on in your life. What were you thinking, feeling, believing about yourself? What were some of the symptoms that got you prescribed in the first place? Okay. Now, for some people, be like, I was depressed. Okay. Well, examine that type of depression versus what you have right now. Right. And so I would also argue with people that I I had lots of mental health symptoms while I was medicated that I never had before, like this levels of depression and things like that. I had a lot of those while medicated. I didn't have those before medication. I had them while medicated. And then having the anxiety and protracted withdrawal was new for me too. Right. So this return of symptoms is a really dumb conversation, I think, when people say it, because your symptoms are rarely the same as the originating symptoms. So
Well, and
rarely.
it's kind of a trap too, because every time I would go in and we would talk about sadness, okay, or feeling down, let's see, that's going to just keep happening in life over and
Over and over
over
again,
and
or
over as
stressed out,
as part
or
of a human experience, not as part of
right,
something that's a
pathology.
pathology that I have. It's just a part of a human experience, right? And so the unfortunate part about it is that the SSRIs actually they did work, right? So I was sad and down, and they worked, air
That's
quote,
what they
because
do, actually, they
they
bring
did
you down. Mhm,
exactly what they needed to do.
mhm.
Now did they? Or I could argue that, I don't know, I just started to move through grief, possibly. I would argue probably not, because I don't think I've grieved anything in my 25 years,
Well,
and once process is
Jen
done, I'm
had
gonna
a
have to
new
go back.
boyfriend Jen had a new boyfriend in 2 weeks, didn't
Listen, I'm
you?
gonna tell
Like
you, I followed my mom's advice. She said, "Jennifer, the best way to get over one is to get another." And for fuck's sake, that's what I did. All right. Poor Brad,
sorry.
I'm sorry
Brad.
you're out there.
This one's dedicated to Brad.
I'm so sorry, because of course it didn't last, right? Brad didn't
Well,
last.
you were a teenager, it's not
Okay.
supposed to
But
last.
yes, those are my teens, early 20s, right? Okay, it
Yeah,
is what it is. But
right.
that's the slippery slope of it all, right? And so that's where I think it's important to talk about how we can become forever consumers within this process.
Yes.
And so the
Because
language.
lived human experience throughout time,
Yes.
you're going to be sad, you're going to be depressed, you're gonna be anxious, you're gonna be
Mhm.
happy, you're gonna be all of that. You go to the doctor, when's the last time if they asked you, the screeners are all about negative stuff, right? They don't have a screener about when's the last time you felt happiness
Yeah.
or joy or satisfaction
Mhm.
or
Yeah.
courage, or you know what I mean? There's nothing like, tell us about those times,
They should
right?
ask me that now, because I'd be like, I don't. I actually can't feel half of those. They'd be like, "Yep, more meds." Right? So you're screwed
Yeah,
either way, I think, Terry. Like,
exactly. I'm
especially when you're
sorry, you're
so
right.
med harmed you can't feel
Exactly.
anything. Like,
True. That's very true.
okay. Okay. I gotta
Damn
stop
it.
making
I
this
thought I was
about me.
onto something, but I'm not.
I'm sorry.
Anyway.
I just ruined that for
No,
you,
no, no.
right? Yeah. But
But you're right. You're
it's
not
hard,
wrong. You're
right? Because
right.
if I were asked
Mhm.
those, can you feel pride? Can you feel deep joy? Like,
No.
what is love? It's a noun. It means to be fond of, a strong attachment for or devotion to a person or person. That's my definition of love. Oh boy, Jen. Yeah, you can't
Yeah,
feel
no.
anything, can you? Nope, can't.
Can't get there.
Nope.
Mm-mm.
So, okay. If we move from that topic, but I think it's really important, because that's
I
really
do
what
think it's important
it's
that you
super important.
evaluate the
Yeah.
origination of your symptoms, because
Let's be a
over time your
historian.
symptoms change. Yeah,
Yeah.
be a really good historian to yourself.
Yes.
Really
Yes.
examine those things. Yes.
That I think is part of managing protracted withdrawal as well.
Mhm.
Something that I think I've become really good at is becoming a ridiculously good historian. Okay. And what does that mean? So for me, I had made a choice to start to track symptoms. and what types of symptoms I experienced. And I got a
I'm going to tell you, for some people, you should not do this.
Correct. For some people, you should not. And here's the risks and the benefits to it, right? For some of us, for me, it was a benefit because I needed to learn about this for myself. Because I didn't understand any of it. I didn't know my triggers. I didn't know that a slight headache means in Jenn 7 to 10 days, fucking
fucked.
storm is, the wave is coming. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Like I didn't know.
Sharknado is on its way.
Yes. Like it's coming. And I didn't know these things. So for me, I became a really good historian. 2 reasons. 1 for that. 2, because I can't remember anything. So if you were to ask me like, Jenn, when did this start or what was happening? When did your metabolic issues start to come into fruition that you're having in the last few years? If I don't write this stuff down, it's gone. I don't retain it. That's part of how fucked up my prefrontal cortex is. So for me, there's dual reasons why I did this. For some people, it's not effective because you're so much in your head. And if you want to know anything about that, you go to the episode Terry and I did about blind tapering and the risks and benefits to blind tapering and having somebody help you.
Good one. Yeah.
Okay, jump to
when
that.
You're hyperfixated.
We're not going to talk about that today, but yes. Yeah. So that was one of the things that I learned how to manage it, which for me has been very helpful now because I can look back and I can look and see what the symptoms were. If there were triggers to maybe the start of when the protracted withdrawal wave was going to start to hit, and what life stressors or environmental stressors I would notice. My thoughts start to change when I'm about ready to go through a phase of withdrawal. I get low. I get very defeated. My business isn't going to succeed. I compare myself to everybody. I want to give up. I'm never going to make it. That's a big sign for me. Usually within a couple days, I get really low. So I track this stuff because it's been helpful for me. Okay.
Well, I mean, I think that's a good awareness piece too. Like, oh, this is just what my brain is doing. It's not necessarily based in reality at all.
Nope,
it's just what my brain is giving me. It's serving up right now, which can be meaningful. Like, oh, that means that I've got X amount of days before it gets really bad. So that gives you time to prepare and maybe mitigate some of those risks that are going to happen.
And for me, one of the things when you're trying to manage withdrawal is also, if you're doing a taper, guys, then that might be the spaces where you pause your taper. Stay right at where you're at with your dose. I've been sitting at the same dose for 4 weeks now. I haven't touched it, all because some of these things started. And then, of course, yes, the storm has come for me and it's gotten much, much worse. And so I pay attention to that and I track it. So for me, that's why it's effective. So that might be something to think about, everybody. Yeah, for what it's worth. I don't know. That's not one of the things that's typically like listed in how to manage protracted withdrawal, but
well, and if you're thinking of protracted withdrawal in the terms of like you are done with your taper in its entirety, you still have work to do. Excuse me, you still have lifestyle work to do. And I would say really, I hate the word focus in on that, but really prioritize those lives that Jenn and I talked about, those 4 pillars of good mental well-being: nutrition, sleep, movement, stress management through meditation, and connection. I'm going to add that one in, number 5, bonus. But those are the things that when you're off the medication, you are freed up to try to do to reconnect yourself with your life. And that doesn't end. As a matter of fact, I think that job becomes it becomes the same as far as largeness as when you are tapering. You should be focusing on that too. Don't stop just because you're done with a taper. As a matter of fact, keep that part going. And I feel like this is the stuff often in the tapering community too, that people don't focus on. Like they're only focused on the reductions of the medication. They're only focused on those things and they forget to focus on the others, or they feel like they cannot, right? Like they have such limited capacity to focus in on the other pillars, right? But you have to do it like it's your job if you want to have success, and you don't want to be in that, 40 to 50% of people that it lasts for 2 years,
right,
or more than 2 years. Yes.
Right. I firmly
like
believe
those are the missing pieces.
They are. As I believe the dose reduction is the easy part.
I do too.
We can float on science, we can float on, "Here's what you're experiencing, so maybe we went too
Yeah.
fast." Like, the actual mechanism and the science of, like, dose reduction, that
It's
part
easy.
is easy. It's
Mhm.
all the other stuff that is
Yep.
the hard stuff. It's all the shit that you never dealt with when you were on the drugs and how
Right.
that starts to come back. It's how do I even manage an emotion because I don't know how to do
I've
that.
had it for so
I
long.
don't know how it so all of a sudden I can feel grief and I go, I don't even know what that is. How do I even
Right.
manage that? Right. So that's the harder part, I think. And yes, at a cellular level, guys, these drugs, when they are out of the body, stay in the body for a very long time. Years at a cellular level, these drugs are still in the body. And so it's almost like a misnomer to think that when I just okay, it's this quick fix we all want, like that we're all searching for, right? I'm done with the dose. I've finished it. I can close
I'm
the book.
done.
I'm done. Move
Yep.
on. And I
Mhm.
think that that's actually grossly inaccurate. I would even argue like having someone to help you manage after you're done with the dose and like all the things that start to come up is super effective. Just like having someone help you manage it while you're going through the acute
Mhm.
phases of it. The protracted phases of it is when all of these other the physical things start to happen, the emotional, the psychological things start to happen, the neurological things start to happen. Like, why do we not put much stock in that?
'Cause we don't. In our healthcare system, as you're talking, I was thinking about this in a broader scale, like, in healthcare well, let's think about even addiction care for a minute as the closest cousin. Once you go to rehab, you're off that thing. If you don't continue with some type of support, you're likely going to fall back into some things for a while. Like, just because you go to rehab doesn't mean now you're eating
Right.
nutritious foods and exercising and having good
Right.
support. To me, it's the same thing. Just because 'cause you're done with this doesn't mean that you are done with this. But if you think about other healthcare stuff too, like, let's say you have cancer, okay? You power through your chemo treatments, you get done, you get the ring the bell, the clean bill of health, and then what? I go back to living my life the way I lived it before instead
Mhm.
of saying, "Wow, I should probably focus in on some other key factors of a healthy
Sure.
life," right? But that's the way we view our quote unquote healthcare here is that it's all just chasing sickness. So we're going to chase the sickness over, quote unquote, move on till we get sick again, and then we'll get upset about being sick again instead of this idea of like I can have some impact on that myself if I have body awareness, if I have
Mhm.
dealt with my shit in the past, if I decide that I'm going to focus in on some of these pillars and I'm going to change some things about my life. Because again, you didn't get here for
Mhm.
zero reason. You got here for a reason. Now we
Mhm.
need to undo all the rationale and reasoning and think about your life totally different. And that is hard.
It's hard to do while you're going down off a drug. Um
But I think that's why I was unknowingly 'cause when I cold turkeyed everybody like this. I lost my prescriber, I cold turkeyed it, but during that time, I've mentioned this before, I was in a new life. Like I had just moved to where we are. Our life was devastated before. The pieces were finally coming together. My outlook was good. I lost like 100 pounds. I focused on nutrition and exercise, and I was going back to school for my PhD, all these things. Like I had so much hope. And I think that was unknowingly a gift, right? To me. And I didn't even know it was all coincidental. It was
Mhm.
all just kinda happened at the exact same moments that I needed it to happen, at the same time that I went cold turkey off my medications. Again, I had 0 awareness back then. And so I think now I probably would be one of these people that, I probably couldn't track everything like that because I would be so hyper fixated on every
Yep.
single little thing. For me, that oblivion probably was key. Not saying anybody should do it the way I did it, but I had those pillars going on. Like, I
Yeah.
literally changed everything about my life because prior to that time, it was terrible, like, my lifestyle was awful. After, like, I was purposefully doing that, you know, and, Yeah, I think that those pillars came into play much earlier for me without even knowing. So that's why, I mean, I think, and Jen led a fairly healthy lifestyle too. Like she was the one that introduced me to some of this stuff years ago. But unfortunately, again, I was on it for 6 years. I didn't change a dose. I didn't change a single thing. I didn't go up. I didn't go down. I just stayed on it until I was done with it.
Mhm.
So that was it. That probably also was very helpful to me in that I just didn't do anything. I just
Yeah.
stayed steady. So that would be an interesting research project really, is to be looking at people who will go up, who go down, who do all these things, duration, all that stuff too. But anyway, so that's why the pillars are very important anyway. So that was my little high horse again. I always do that. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, everybody. But I really do believe that book was written. My book was written years ago, years ago without me even knowing that it was written years ago. So yeah.
Buy
That's
the
it.
book. Hey, people, buy the book.
Buy the book. Your Best Brain, available on Amazon. Yes. The book is
So
the pillars. It really is.
It is.
The
It's
pillars.
about the pillars. And that's what we're
Mhm.
talking about. Like literally the conversation we're having now is we've transitioned into how to manage this, right? Because the
Mhm.
management of this matters, right? So it's about stabilizing ourselves and not pushing ourselves. It's about recognizing, especially if we're still tapering, like, do I need to pause? And what does that look like? And maybe I do. I don't need perfection, but I might track my symptoms so that I can kind of see, are there any patterns? Okay.
Patterns are important.
Patterns are
Mhm.
important, guys. The other thing I think that we talked a little bit about is like the nutritional support piece, right? So our brain is trying to rebuild. So we're going to need a significant amount of protein.
Not just
Like,
your brain, your whole body.
well, the whole
Anywhere that
body.
there is a receptor is trying to rebuild. So,
The
yes.
head bone's connected to
Connected to
the
the
neck
neck bone.
bone. The
Yeah.
neck bone. Do I have to sing the
Yes.
damn song, people?
I
No, I'm
think
not
so.
gonna do
I
it.
think
Okay.
so.
Oh, my deep prescribing clients are like, seriously, Jen, will you stop singing that song? I'm like, well, then I want you to really understand that
Start listening.
this is all connected. Just listen,
Yes.
because otherwise I'm going to sing this like Mr. Rogers. Like, damn it,
Yes.
listen to me, right? So let's
Mhm.
understand that. So that is all interconnected. Nutrition is going to be helpful with that because we're going to need that protein. We need those omegas. We need
Mhm.
magnesium. We need to pay attention to our blood sugar. Okay,
Oh,
we
that's the
need to pay
biggest one, you
attention
guys.
to reactive hypoglycemia.
Wow, that's so big. It's
Oh,
so huge. It's so
man.
huge and so under discussed.
How do we do it, Terry? Because I'm not going to go into the doctor every single day and I'm going to have somebody take my blood pressure and how do I even do this? What are you saying?
Eat more protein more frequently, and that'll do it. Less sugars, less carbs, more protein, more fiber.
Yes.
That'll do
Yeah.
it. And just protein more frequently every 3 hours or
Mhm.
so will do it. Okay,
Yes.
protein before bed will help your sleep. It will. It just does.
Yes.
So, these things are, and then we move that, then nutrition bleeds into sleep,
Yes, it
right? So the
does.
things we do with our nutrition help us to sleep. The things we do with movement help us to sleep, right?
Mhm.
There's lots of things that we do that impact the other pillar. If I'm working out more, I'm probably going to eat better too, right? Cuz my body literally calls for better food. It's weird.
Yeah.
So yeah, so all of these things, like, they interplay with each other, right? So this is the conversation Jen just had. It's not just about the taper. It's
Mhm.
never been just about the taper.
No.
It's never been just about the prescribing. Unfortunately, our healthcare systems distill it down into that,
Yeah.
here's your problem, here's your pill, right?
Mhm.
That's the way we've operated ourselves forever. And that part needs to change. So anyone who's still listening or watching, like, that's the part. Like, you are a whole human and you have to fuel your body like a whole human.
Yes.
And medication was never fuel in the first place. Medication actually reduces your fuel. So now you're in a
Right.
hole. Mhm.
Well, right. In your nervous system, this is something people don't want to hear. I'm going to say it anyways, because we're going to talk about the shit that people don't want to hear. During withdrawal, your nervous system, I'm going to say it really simply, right? It has way less capacity. Okay,
Mm.
let's just throw it that right. Its ability to adapt is not doing as well as if it wasn't going through this. It's no different than if I have like strep or the flu
Sure.
or hepatitis or what COVID, whatever it is, right? Your body's ability to adapt, the capacity, the resources are not there. The resources are not there, and they're being allocated all over the place when you're going through withdrawal so that you can just, I don't know, fucking wake up and function. So one of the things that I think is really important when it comes to how do I get through protracted withdrawal is how do you reduce your nervous system load? Now, we could talk about supplements, we could talk about nutrition, we can talk about sleep, but one of the things I think people don't want to talk about is how do I limit stress? And I want to go back to what you're just saying about stress, Terry. Okay. I have people that work with me all the time, and when I say to them, how do you reduce that nerve load on your nervous system? And they do all the holistic things, right? Like they're cold plunging, they're sitting in salt baths, right? They've done, I mean, they're doing IV treatments, pumping their body full of nutrients, all the good stuff. I'm not saying it's bad, right? And then I will say to them, okay, well, tell me about your lifestyle. And just tell me about your day-to-day stuff. Give me a recap. You've been trying to get off these drugs 6 months. What's your life look like? Well, I started a brand new job. We just built a house. I actually had just had a baby about 4 months. And I'm like, wait a minute.
You can't outdo that with a salt bath.
Listen, okay? And so the hard conversations are, is it the best time for me to have a child? Is this the time for us to build a fucking house? Is this the time for me to take a promotion in my job, Dr. Teralyn? Is this time for me to go take over an AODA facility?
Right.
Right? Stop. When I might be going through protracted withdrawal, calling your shit.
I didn't know.
I know, but you don't know what you don't know.
I know.
I'm just being a brat.
I know
seriously,
you are.
And people will sit there and they're just like, well, I'm not going to build my dream home. I'm not going to take that promotion. I'm like, okay, really? Why will we not consider this as something that is actually contributing to your stress?
Now, those are big stress loads. I need to bring in a small one that I just got a massive amount of pushback on social media. I did a post about eliminating social media during a taper. Okay.
Oh God, I wish I could do it.
Okay. And so I did a whole series of, like, I think it was 6 graphics about what it does to your brain and the extra stress load that it puts on your brain and things like that. People were so pissed about this. Yeah. Well, that's the only place that I go to get my support. That's the only place that has ever helped me. That's like the pushback on something quote unquote small, like social media, was profound. Now you're asking people to not take a promotion or not build a house. People are resisting getting rid of or reducing a lot their social media use, right? And I'm like, I didn't say that you had to completely be done with it, but you got to limit it. And if you can't limit it, then you need to have some awareness of what it's actually negatively also doing for you. That is a small stress change that can be done. And so for people to look at it like, I did the big one. I quit my job. Like, again, not knowing, right? But I did those things. You did that for yourself too, not during withdrawal, but for other purposes. But those things, everything works out fine in the end. Everything will work out fine in the end if you reduce or eliminate or pause social media. It will be fine. It will be just fine if you do those things. So, but if you constantly push back on the small little things that could equal big payouts for you, then, that resistance is going to create problems for you later.
Well, I think about if you can't do the pushback, if you push back on those small things, right? I can only imagine the large things that you're actually taking on and not paying attention to at all either.
100%.
I mean, so I think that's actually a very, very good point. These are the things people don't want to hear when we talk to them clearly, right? The response that you get on social media. If Terry had $1 for every time I said, I wish I could not have any social media in my life at all, or for every time I call her and I will say, I'm going to step back from stuff in a different way when it comes to being on my computer because it's just too much for me. You'd have hundreds of dollars in your pocket over the last couple of years because it's true.
That makes sense, Jenn.
I know. I'll send you a memo because I recognize that for myself as somebody who's going through it.
Mhm.
It does nothing but evil for me. It really
Yes.
does. And I have to stay away from it the most that I can. With
It's designed to do that, you guys.
it
Like
is.
it is designed to impact your brain. It is designed to do that.
For all of you, if we lose about 20 YouTube followers right now because you decide you need to stop watching YouTube because you're going through withdrawal, we're not
Don't
mad at
stop watching YouTube.
No, we're not mad at you.
Stay
It's
on
okay.
YouTube.
It's okay. So
We're talking about all the other stuff, not YouTube.
that's a big
Yes.
thing, right? So how
Have
do we work
limits.
through? How do we work
Mhm.
through this? What are our limits, right? If we say nervous system regulation, what are some of these non-negotiables? Figure out your little shit and maybe even look at your big shit too. And
Yeah.
figure out what you need to do to regulate your nervous system. Because it's not just about cold plunge baths. It's not just about the supplements that you're taking. It's not
I do want to bring in something really quick here too, because I
Yeah.
know we're running out of time. But
We
I want to look at the movement part, the exercise part. I'll either have two types of clients: the client that is not doing any exercise or moving around at all, or the one that's doing HIIT classes and doing all the things. Yes. And so that
raise my
person
hand.
is harder because when we talk about movement, they're like, I already do all this stuff and I'm still anxious and I'm still depressed.
Oh
And
my God.
yeah, and because you are overtaxing now. So instead of doing nothing, you're doing all the things. So all the things are still going to tax your nervous
You mean I
system.
can't run anymore? You mean I have to stop doing CrossFit?
I remember when I
Yes,
told her that.
you did. Oh my God. I was so pissed when you told me I had to stop running. Oh my God. Like, that woman can go screw herself. Right now.
Exactly.
But when you explain it in a way, and as we are explaining this in a way, guys,
Mhm.
how Terry said it to me over 3 years ago was, your adrenals are so taxed. And
Yep.
I was in a stage of adrenal failure. All right. I did some functional testing to see where it was all at. Hell yes, it was in failure.
Low.
And when
Mhm.
you wake up every day and your cell phone battery, this is what Terry said to me, your
Yep.
cell phone battery is at 30%, and you're having to figure out how to get through the entire day at 30%. You're going to throw a CrossFit in there. You're going to throw a 6, 7, 8 mile run in there. And
Yep.
you think that that's going to help restore your energy?
Mhm.
No, you're actually depleting the little resources that you have.
Yes.
That was
Okay.
very good advice.
Yeah.
Very good advice. Yeah, I
She
listened.
listened. She did. Like she reported back.
And I
That
was so
great.
mad. And some clients do the same thing now. They're like, I'm not
Like,
giving that up. And I said,
yeah.
okay, then let's put a plan together for maybe reduction and what movement can look like, but in a different way.
Yes.
There's depletion movement, there's restorative movement. Let's find a balance and let's make it work for you and see how it works. So
this is a caution. Even the people that tell me I do all the things right all the time, that could be the stress right there. Mhm.
Right. Exactly.
Mhm.
So we are the Gaslit Truth Podcast. For those of you, thank you. We've got lots of people watching today.
Yes,
thank you so much, guys. Hopefully this was helpful in learning a little bit more about protracted withdrawal and a little bit of information on effective ways to manage protracted withdrawal. Please go ahead and give us the stars, give us your comments, send us your Gaslit Truth stories to the Gaslit Truth Podcast at gmail.com. And again, we got to give one more shout out to our 1,000th listener,
Michelle.
Thank you, Michelle. We really appreciate you, and everybody else that's listened. Thank you. We couldn't do it without you guys. So have a good one, everyone.